Oil just did something that quietly raises the cost of everything, and the Nasdaq felt it first. On February 4th, WTI crude jumped to $65, a 3% surge in a single day. At the same time, tech dropped 1.5%. Energy stocks ripped higher. That's not a coincidence. That's a tax, an energy tax that never gets voted on. And when it hits, the math doesn't care about narratives. Now, the headline trigger was geopolitical. Reports said the US shot down an Iranian drone near a US carrier, and tanker traffic got tense near Oman. That doesn't have to shut the Strait of Hormuz to matter. It only has to change the price of risk. And the Strait of Hormuz is the biggest price of risk on Earth. Roughly 1/5 of global oil flows through that choke point. And so when traders smell trouble there, they add a premium fast. Translation: markets don't wait for the worst case, they price the possibility. Now look at the rotation that hit screens today. Oil up hard, tech down hard, energy up, and the S&P 500 sliding toward the high 6,800s. That's the risk-off tell, without the word panic. So in this video, I'm going to do 3 things. First, explain why oil at 65 acts like a tax. Second, show why that tax hits the Nasdaq first. Third, lay out the real test level markets are watching next. Because if that level breaks, the tape changes. And it changes fast. Quick checkpoint. Oil moved first, stocks reacted second. The bond market matters third. Now, why does oil behave like a tax? Because it's an input cost that touches almost every product. The fuel moves trucks, fuel powers ships, fuel heats factories, and oil derivatives show up in plastics, chemicals, packaging, and fertilizer. So when oil rises, the cost stack rises? Not in one place. Everywhere. Think of the economy like a giant delivery app. If the delivery fee jumps overnight, nobody feels one fee. They feel it in every order. Now add the timing problem. A lot of households already feel squeezed, so a higher energy bill doesn't just shift spending, it steals spending. It pulls dollars away from everything else. That means fewer restaurant meals, fewer upgrades, less discretionary demand. That's why traders call it a tax. Not because it's literally a tax, because it behaves like one, and it hits cash flow. Now, why did the Nasdaq take the punch? Because tech is priced like a promise. Our big chunk of tech valuation rests on margins staying high and growth staying smooth, but energy costs threaten both. First, energy can pressure margins directly. Data centers consume power. Chip fabrication consumes power. Cloud platforms consume power. Even the digital economy sits on physical electricity. Second, energy can pressure the customer. If households pay more at the pump, they have less for devices, services, and upgrades. That's demand risk, so the Nasdaq gets hit from both sides. Costs up, end demand down. That's a double squeeze. Translation: the market reprices the perfect future. And it does it fast. Now layer the AI boom on top. AI is amazing, but it's not free. It's a capital spending cycle. That means real factories, real servers, real cooling, real power contracts. When oil pops, it reminds traders of something uncomfortable. Our I margins are not purely software margins. They're part industrial. Think of it like building a skyscraper. The rent can be great, but if steel and concrete spike mid-build, the project economics shift. That's what energy does. It shifts the build cost. Now, before anyone says 65 isn't even that high, pause. This isn't about a single level. It's about the rate of change. A 3% jump in a day is a shock. It forces hedges, it forces rebalancing, and it forces headlines. The result is a rotation. Even if oil stays below old peaks, that's why today mattered. Now let's talk about the part most people miss. Oil is also an inflation input. Not always instantly, but reliably. Transportation costs feed into goods prices. Petrochemicals feed into packaging. Energy feeds into services indirectly. So when oil spikes, it complicates the Fed's job. And the Fed's job is already a trap, because markets want easier policy. But inflation risk blocks it. That's the contradiction. Stocks want cuts. Oil says not so fast. And the math doesn't care about narratives. Here's the mechanism in plain steps. Oil rises, inflation expectations tick up. The Fed gets less flexible. Rates stay higher, longer. Discount rates rise. Long duration assets, reprice. Long duration is a fancy phrase. It means prices that depend on far future cash flows. Tech is full of that, so tech takes the hit first. That's the chain. Now think of rates like gravity. When gravity increases, high flyers fall harder. That's tech. Energy, meanwhile, is the opposite. Energy earnings often rise with oil. So money rotates into the thing that benefits. That's why energy outperformed today. Now, a lot of people saw this and said, so this is just a one-day headline move. Maybe, but the market is telling a deeper story. The deeper story is risk premium. When a choke point gets tense, traders don't need closure. They need protection. And protection costs money. So they sell what's crowded. And they buy what's defensive. Today, growth was crowded. Energy was underowned. That's why the rotation looked violent. Picture a movie theatre with one narrow exit. If someone whispers, "smoke," the crowd moves before anyone sees fire. That's positioning. It's not moral, it's mechanical. Now let's tie this back to the S&P 500 level. Markets love round numbers, but they trade levels. And the high 6,800s became a reference point today. One widely watched read had the index around 6,886, and traders were already talking about nearby support zones. So what happens when price approaches support? Two forces show up: dip buyers and stop losses. Dip buyers want the bounce, stop losses trigger if the bounce fails. That's why levels matter. They're decision points, not prophecy. So what's the real test? It's not one exact number. It's the behavior around that zone. Does volume rise on the way down? Do rebounds fail faster? Do leadership stocks break first? That's the signal. Now let's add a second layer. Volatility targeting. A lot of funds adjust exposure based on volatility, how much prices swing. When volatility rises, those systems cut risk. Not because they're scared, because their model tells them to. So a sharp oil move can raise vol. Higher volume forces de-risking. De-risking pressures indices. That pressure hits tech again, because tech is high beta. Beta just means moves more than the market. So the Nasdaq becomes the shock absorber, and it does not feel good. Now we're about a quarter in, so hold this thought. The oil move is the headline, but the hidden amplifier is positioning. That comes next. Quick recap. Oil added an energy tax. Tech absorbed the shock. The S&P drifted toward a key zone. Now who was forced to move? Start with hedgers. Airlines hedge fuel. Shipping firms hedge fuel. Big industrials hedge inputs. When oil spikes, hedges get expensive. Some players add protection immediately. That adds demand for energy exposure. Second, think about systematic traders. CTA trend models buy strength. They don't believe. They follow. If oil breaks out, those models can add. That can extend the move. Third, think about options. Dealers hedge options exposure. If traders rush to buy puts, dealers hedge by selling futures. That can push the index down more. It's plumbing, repo, overnight lending using bonds as collateral. Still matters for leverage. Collateral. Assets pledged to secure a loan matters for margin. When risk rises, financing tightens a bit. That nudges selling. Translation. The tape can slide without a villain. Now we hit the key question. Is this a one-day spike or a regime shift? The answer depends on duration. A one-day spike hurts sentiment. A multi-week spike hurts earnings because companies can absorb a day. They can't absorb a quarter. So what should markets watch? Not forecasts, hard signals. First, watch whether oil holds the new level. Second, watch whether gasoline and diesel follow. Third, watch whether inflation expectations creep. Fourth, watch whether the Fed's language changes. That's the test. And it's why the next few sessions matter. Because the market is trying to decide if this is noise or the start of a new pressure cycle. Now for a digestion beat, think of oil like a tax meter in a taxi. If the meter jumps at the start of the ride, every mile costs more. The passenger doesn't debate policy, they just pay or cancel the trip. That's demand destruction. Now let's talk about tech margins in an energy shock. A lot of investors assume tech is asset light. But the AI era changed that. The The AI leaders spend on chips, they spend on servers, they spend on power, they spend on cooling and real estate. So cost of energy isn't just a consumer story, it's a production story. Data centers sign power deals. Utilities build capacity. Energy becomes strategic. So when oil rises, investors start asking, do margins compress? Do capex budgets rise? Do returns on that capex fall? Those questions hit valuation. And valuation is the Nasdaq's oxygen. Now, the other reason the Nasdaq sold off is sensitivity to rates. Even if the Fed doesn't hike, the market can reprice cuts. If oil rises, the odds of quick easing fall, and that can lift real yields, interest rate minus inflation. Real yields matter. They raise the discount rate on long cash flows, that's the math. Now, none of this guarantees anything. Markets can bounce any day. But the mechanism creates pressure, and pressure is what traders price. Now we're approaching the mid-script hinge, so let's set the cliffhanger. If oil stays elevated into next inflation prints, the market's rate cut story gets harder to defend. That's the hinge. Now what about energy stocks? Energy rallied because earnings leverage works the other way. Oil rises, revenue rises. Cash flow improves. Buybacks look safer. Balance sheets look stronger. So money rotates, but there's a second angle. Energy has been a hated sector for years. Underowned, underweighted. So when a catalyst hits, price can move more than fundamentals. That's why it can look like a breakout. It's part earnings, part positioning. So when people say XLE is breaking out, they might be talking about price structure, not just oil. Now, the data from February 4th showed XLE closing above $52. Depending on the reference, that's near the top of its recent range, so technicians will stare at it. But the bigger question is the same as oil. Does it hold? Because breakouts that fail create traps, and traps create violent reversals. Now let's zoom out. Today also hinted at factor rotation, growth down, value up, defensive areas steadier. That's classic late cycle behavior. Not because a recession is guaranteed, because uncertainty rose. And when uncertainty rises, investors pay for cash flow today, not stories tomorrow. That's why energy can shine, that's why staples can hold, and that's why high multiple tech gets punished. Now, why does this matter for the 2026 bull run idea? Because bull runs need two things: earnings support and liquidity support. Oil spikes threaten both. Earnings support weakens through costs. Liquidity support weakens through inflation risk. So even if the economy is fine, the market can struggle because valuation compresses. Translation, stocks can go nowhere while the economy grows. That's the grind. Now let's address the geopolitical piece carefully. Markets don't need war to price risk. They just need uncertainty around supply. Iran exports matter. Shipping lanes matter. Insurance premiums matter. An OPEC policy matters. So even a small incident can ripple, especially when inventories are falling. One report cited US crude inventories down by about 3.5 million barrels. That's not a crisis. But it reduces cushion. Cushion matters in a shock. Think of inventories like a pantry. If the pantry is full, a delivery delay is annoying. If the pantry is low, the same delay feels scary. That's the psychology. Now we're around the second echo point, so remember the promise. We're going to land this with a clear what to watch dashboard. But first, one more hidden amplifier: currency. When oil rises, it can change dollar flows. Some oil trade is dollar-based. Hedging demand shifts. Risk-off can strengthen the dollar. A stronger dollar can tighten global conditions. That hits emerging markets. That can feed back into risk appetite. So an oil spike can ripple beyond energy. Now don't overcomplicate it. This is still the core mechanism. Oil rises, cost rises, inflation risk rises. Rate cuts get pushed out. Long duration assets reprice down. Energy and value can catch a bid. That's the engine, and the math doesn't care about narratives. Now, what are the clean signals that tell whether this fades or spreads? Signal 1, oil. Does WTI stay above the mid-60s or does it mean revert? Signal 2, breadth. Do more stocks break down, or is it just mega cap tech? Signal 3. Volatility. Does the VIX hold higher, or does it fade back? Signal 4. Rates. Do yields drift up, or do they stay calm? Signal 5. Credit. Do spreads, the gap between two interest rates, widen? Credit is the canary. If credit stays stable, this is manageable. If credit cracks, the risk-off move gets real. Now a digestion beat. Think of credit like a heart monitor. Stocks can flail, oil can spike. But if credit stays steady, the system still has rhythm. If credit stutters, the room gets quiet. Now what about that S&P level? Again, it's not magic, but it's a reference. If the index holds the zone and bounces, the market says, this was a scare. If it breaks and fails to reclaim, the market says, this is a change. Because failed support becomes resistance. And that changes behavior. It changes how fast sellers appear. Now, one more practical angle. Corporate guidance. Companies can't control oil. They can only react. So when oil spikes, management teams often turn cautious. They guide down margins. They hedge more. They delay hiring. That cautious tone feeds into multiples. So the next earnings wave can carry the oil shock forward. Even if oil cools, that lag is important. Now let's pull it all together with the scorecard. Oil, up hard, near mid-60s, adding inflation risk. Nasdaq, down about 1.5%, showing duration stress. S&P 500, hovering near the high 6,800s, testing a key behavior zone. That's the snapshot. And now the payoff. 3 things decide whether this is a one-day headline or a broader shift. First, does oil hold the new premium? If it fades fast, risk can rebound fast. Second, do inflation expectations creep higher? If they do, the Fed stays boxed in. Third, does the S&P defend the high 6,800s? If it fails, selling can accelerate through systematic flows. That's it. Not a prophecy, a framework. Because the math doesn't care about narratives, it cares about inputs, rates, and positioning. And when oil spikes, all 3 move at once.